Welcome to a journey across the vast cosmos, where the stars whisper ancient stories and the universe unfolds its quiet mysteries. Tonight, we will explore why no other civilization has contacted us. Exploring the dark forest hypothesis. Imagine for a moment that you are walking through a forest at night. The trees are tall and dark. The moonlight barely makes its way through the canopy. You cannot see far. You cannot hear much. Every step you take feels louder than it should. You know that others may be out there, predators, strangers, threats, but you do not know where they are. And so, you move quietly. You speak not a word. You make yourself small. You are not alone, but you must pretend to be. This is the essence of the dark forest, a metaphor for a universe where every civilization is a hunter, cautious and alert, surrounded by unknown others who may strike without warning. But first, don't forget to subscribe and like the channel. Now, wherever you are, in bed, resting on a couch, or simply seeking a peaceful moment for yourself, let your breath slow. Allow your thoughts to drift gently like a feather on a breeze. Let the world outside fall away, and let the stars above become your ceiling. Tonight, we journey not just into space, but into silence. A silence so complete, so profound, it echoes louder than any sound. It is the silence between stars. The silence that lingers in the cosmic void. The silence that raises a single ancient question. Why is it so quiet out there? The night sky has always beckoned us. For tens of thousands of years, humans have looked up and wondered what or who might be beyond those distant lights. We've built myths, drawn constellations, and crafted stories to make sense of the endless dark. But now, with telescopes that reach across galaxies and spacecraft that leave our solar system behind, we find ourselves facing something stranger than myth, stranger than fiction. We face the silence, a deep, persistent absence. No voices, no signals, no cities glowing on distant moons, no great beacons of intelligence lighting the galactic horizon. Just stars, cold, beautiful, unreachable. And in that quiet, we begin to wonder, not if we are alone, but why no one else is speaking. Take a moment now to feel that stillness. Picture the Earth from orbit, a pale blue sphere floating in the dark. It spins silently, wrapped in a thin shell of air, beneath which all of human history has taken place. Every laugh, every tear, every war, every love, all of it contained on a fragile dot, suspended in the void. Now imagine zooming out, past the moon, past Mars, past the icy edge of the solar system. Soon, our sun becomes just another star, twinkling faintly behind us. And still, we continue outward, moving across the Milky Way, past countless other suns, countless other worlds. We now know that planets are not rare. They're common, incredibly so. Nearly every star may have its own system of orbiting worlds. Many of those planets are rocky. Many lie in habitable zones where liquid water could exist. The raw ingredients for life are not special. They're abundant, which makes the silence even louder. The more we learn about the universe, the less sense our loneliness makes. Surely, we think, life must have emerged elsewhere. Surely, some of it must have endured, advanced, explored, built civilizations, sent signals, launched ships, looked out into the night just as we are doing now. And yet, we hear nothing. Are we truly alone? And if not This is not just a story. It is a feeling, a state of mind. It is the echo of something vast and unknowable that stirs within us when we look up at the night sky and see nothing looking back. But before we give it a name, as we explore the idea known as the dark forest hypothesis, before we frame it in science or philosophy, we must begin with something more primal: silence. Not the silence of an empty room or a sleeping city, but a cosmic silence. A silence that spans millions of years and billions of light years. A silence so vast, it becomes a presence of its own. We have been listening to the stars for over half a century now. We've built machines that can hear the faintest whispers of the universe. We've pointed our antennas toward the heavens and waited patiently for a reply. And through all of it, through the hum of radio waves and the music of the galaxies, we have heard nothing. Not a whisper, not a flicker, not a signal we can call our own. It's as if we're standing in the middle of a great cathedral, calling out into the dark, only to hear our own voice echo back. The stars shimmer, but they do not speak. And this profound stillness gives birth to one of the most haunting paradoxes ever conceived, the Fermi paradox. It goes like this: if the universe is ancient, and it is; if the universe is vast, and it most certainly is; if life arises naturally, given the right conditions, and we have every reason to believe it does, then where is everybody? In the boundless quiet of the universe, sometimes, just sometimes, there comes a flicker, a moment so unexpected, so brief, that it leaves behind more questions than answers. And in those questions, entire worlds of speculation are born. Let us now return to a summer night in 1977, where, far from the spotlight of headlines and the chaos of human affairs, something extraordinary may have occurred. The location: Delaware, Ohio, a quiet field under a soft summer sky. Here stood a massive and curious structure known as the Big Ear Radio Telescope. Two enormous curved reflectors aimed skyward like the ears of some ancient stone sentinel. It was part of Ohio State University's long-standing effort to search for radio signals from space specifically, signals that might not be natural. SETI, the search for extraterrestrial intelligence, was still in its infancy then, driven more by hope and wonder than by evidence. But it was a scientific hope, one rooted in method, data, and the belief that the universe, vast as it is, could not possibly be silent forever. Jerry Emmon was one of the astronomers volunteering to sift through the reams of data collected nightly by the Big Ear. The process was painstaking, often dull pages upon pages of numerical output, a digital landscape of static and repetition. Most of it was noise, Earth-based interference, cosmic background radiation, or the ever-present hiss of deep space. But on August 15th, 1977, something changed. Emmon noticed a cluster of numbers and letters that leapt from the page. It was a burst of intensity measured as 6EQUJ5, lasting 72 seconds. It came from the direction of the constellation Sagittarius, near the Chi Sagittarii star group. More importantly, it came from the hydrogen line 1420.456 MHz, a frequency considered a kind of universal hailing channel, since hydrogen is the most abundant element in the cosmos. The signal was narrowband, which is to say, precise and focused, not the wide, chaotic spread of a natural source, not random static, but a tight whisper across the sky, a deliberate breath. Startled, Jerry circled the data on the paper and wrote one simple word in the margin: wow. That scribbled just 3 letters would go on to define one of the most intriguing mysteries in the history of astronomy. From that moment on, the signal became known as the WOW signal, not because we understood it, but precisely because we didn't. Its origin was never confirmed. Its message, if there was one, remained indecipherable. It never repeated, and no telescope ever detected it again. Despite decades of follow-up observations, revisits to the same patch of sky, and advancements in listening technology, the wow signal stands alone like a single footstep in fresh snow that leads nowhere. And yet, that lonely imprint has haunted minds ever since. Was it an alien transmission? A cosmic accident? Or something in between? Some skeptics have suggested more mundane explanations. They posit that it could have been a secret military transmission, or perhaps even a satellite briefly crossing the telescope's field. Others have claimed that hydrogen clouds or comets might explain the anomaly, though most of those ideas have since been ruled out by detailed analysis. What remains is this: a 72-second signal, never seen before, never seen again, coming from deep space, aligning perfectly with what scientists believed would be a logical frequency for communication. It is, in many ways, the perfect ghost story for modern science. But unlike ancient ghost stories told around fires and passed down through myth, this one is printed on paper, backed by data, examined under microscopes and logic. And still, it eludes us. The real power of the wow signal is not that it proves the existence of intelligent life. It doesn't, but it opens a door, a sliver of possibility wide enough for imagination and caution to slip through. If it was artificial, then someone or something was trying to say hello. And if it wasn't, then we are left wondering what else might be out there, just beyond the edge of our understanding, choosing not to speak. The mystery of the wow signal is inseparable from the silence that followed it. Imagine shouting across a vast canyon and hearing a single echo reply, only to be met with unending stillness after. That is the emotional weight this signal carries. It doesn't just hint at contact, it hints at withdrawal, at retreat, at fear, perhaps. This is where the dark forest hypothesis begins to take root, not as a definitive answer, but as a chilling possibility. Because if the wow signal was real, if someone sent it, why haven't they done so again? Why was the message not repeated? Why not follow up? Why not reveal themselves? One possibility is that the signal was a mistake, a rogue transmission, a leak. And if that is true, then the silence afterward may not be accidental, but intentional. As if, upon realizing the message was sent, someone out there recoiled, shut down the beacon, went dark, disappeared back into the cosmic trees, as if they remembered the rules. And what rules would govern such behavior? Only those of survival in a hostile, unknowable environment. In a forest at night, where predators roam and prey cower in silence, the wisest move is not to call out, but to listen, to stay still, to vanish. The dark forest hypothesis, then, is not just a theory. It is a story, a framework for understanding that perhaps the universe is not empty, but hiding. Not lifeless, but afraid. The wow signal becomes, in this light, a breach of protocol. A whisper too loud, a glimpse behind the curtain. A mistake that could have had consequences we may never know. And so, the signal fades into history, unanswered, unconfirmed, and unforgettable. We return again and again to that 72-second blip, that strange mathematical signature that for a brief moment made the cosmos feel less empty. Because in that signal, something changed. It wasn't evidence. It was suggestion. It was mood. It was atmosphere. It was the realization that we may not be alone, not because someone spoke, but because someone might have stopped speaking. And so we listen. We build larger and more sensitive arrays. We aim our ears at the stars. We send out signals of our own, naive perhaps, but hopeful. And yet the silence continues. Each new generation of astronomers stares into the same abyss, hoping for a second wow, hoping for confirmation, hoping that anyone might speak again. But maybe they won't. Maybe once was enough. Maybe the forest is darker than we imagined. And maybe, just maybe, the eyes in that forest have already seen us. The dark forest hypothesis takes this possibility and wraps it in a layer of unsettling logic. It suggests that the silence of the universe is not due to emptiness, but due to fear. That civilizations, rather than reaching out, choose instead to remain hidden, quiet, camouflaged in the galactic foliage, because the cost of being seen might be extinction. To explore this hypothesis fully, we will follow the trail of our own reasoning. We will examine the paradox that gave rise to the idea, the models of survival that drive it, the philosophical reflections that echo its premise, and the possible futures it implies for us, the species still speaking into the darkness. So take a deep breath, let go of the weight of the day, and follow the path through the forest, where the only sound is the rustle of thought and the quiet beating of the heart, as we ask a question that may be more dangerous than we realize. What if someone is listening? To understand why the universe might be silent, we must return to the idea that started it all, the Fermi paradox. Though it has become a central question in modern astrobiology and philosophy, its origins were surprisingly casual. The story goes that in the summer of 1950, during a lunchtime conversation at Los Alamos National Laboratory, physicist Enrico Fermi suddenly asked, "Where is everybody?" At the time, the conversation had drifted to UFOs and life beyond Earth, a topic that lingered at the edges of scientific respectability. But Fermi's question cut through the noise with brutal clarity. If the universe is vast and old, and it is, and if stars with planets are common, and they are, and if life can arise under the right conditions, which we now believe it can, then it follows logically that intelligent civilizations should have emerged long before us. And given enough time, at least one of them should have developed the ability to travel or transmit across the stars. And yet, all around us, there is silence. Fermi's question is so powerful because it doesn't require evidence of alien life to become a problem. It only requires the assumption that life is not unique to Earth, an idea supported by our growing knowledge of exoplanets, the chemistry of life, and the history of our own world. The more we learn about the cosmos, the more we find ourselves surrounded by conditions that should favor life. And still, we hear nothing. This silence might be a hint, not of the absence of life, but of a deeper, more complex behavior. A cosmic etiquette of caution, born not from peace, but from fear. Because what if every civilization out there has come to the same terrifying realization, that in a universe as vast and unknowable as this one, the greatest threat is not the silence, but being heard? Imagine the galaxy as a great dark forest. Each civilization is a silent hunter, carefully moving through the trees, afraid to light a fire or make a sound. Because in this forest, every noise carries. Every flicker of light draws attention, and there is no way to know what's lurking in the shadows. Every other being might be a threat, and in the absence of trust, in the cold logic of survival, the safest move is to remain invisible, always watching, never revealing, hoping no one else makes the mistake of being seen. The dark forest hypothesis, introduced to many readers through the science fiction of Lou Sixon, particularly his book The Dark Forest, builds upon this metaphor with startling clarity. It presents the idea that the cosmos is not silent because it is empty, but because every intelligent species knows that to reveal itself is to risk annihilation. Let us consider why this would be the case. start with two simple assumptions. First, that the primary goal of every civilization is survival. This is not just a reflection of our own nature, but a logical necessity. Any civilization that does not prioritize its survival will not last long enough to make contact. Second, that resources in the universe, while vast, are not infinite. Over long timescales, expansion, colonization, and the consumption of resources become necessities for continued survival. From these two assumptions alone, a terrible dilemma arises. If two civilizations exist and do not know each other's intentions, and if communication is difficult or impossible, as it would be across light years, then each must consider the other a potential threat. They may wish to coexist, they may be peaceful, but they cannot be certain that the other is. And in the absence of certainty, in the darkness of the forest, the safest action might be to strike first, to eliminate the threat before it becomes real. This is not malice. It is not warlike instinct. It is chillingly rational. The dark forest hypothesis is not about evil aliens. It is about uncertainty. About how, in a place as vast and unforgiving as the cosmos, caution becomes strategy, silence becomes survival, and noise, even the kindest, most hopeful attempt to say, "We are here," becomes a fatal mistake. When humanity began broadcasting radio waves into space, we did so with wonder, not fear. Our earliest signals, broadcasts of the Olympics, political speeches, television shows, have been traveling outward for over a century now. Any civilization within 100 light years could, in theory, detect them. We've sent intentional messages too, encoded plaques aboard spacecraft, radio pulses aimed at distant stars, even the famed Arecibo message. But we did so without knowing who might be listening. What if, somewhere out there, someone did hear us? And what if, in their fear, in their cold logic, they chose not to respond, but to act? The unsettling truth is that we wouldn't know. The vastness of space means that even if a hostile action were initiated, it would take decades or centuries for anything to reach us. And perhaps, it already has. But we must not drift too far into fear, because fear, while part of the hypothesis, is not its heart. The dark forest is not about monsters. It is about the rules of a game we do not yet understand, a game where silence may be the only safe move. This brings us to a deeper philosophical reflection. How does a civilization decide what to do in a universe where every other player is unknown? What kind of ethics, what kind of diplomacy can survive the darkness between stars? It is not just a question of technology. It is a question of trust. And trust in the cold vacuum of space is a dangerous gamble. So far, humanity has behaved like a child wandering into a dark forest with a lantern held high, calling out into the night with curiosity and hope. And maybe that's who we are. Dreamers, explorers, optimists. Maybe that is our strength. But the forest may not reward such bravery. Let us pause here, dear listener. Let your breath settle, your thoughts drift. We have only just begun our walk through the trees. There is much more to see, much more to wonder. As we drift further into the depths of this idea, it becomes necessary to reflect not only on the fears that may guide other civilizations, but also on the behaviors that might emerge when survival is the only goal. The dark forest hypothesis asks us to imagine a universe where trust is a luxury, where every civilization, upon discovering that it is not alone, must choose between silence and preemptive action. In such a universe, Diplomacy is not a strategy. It is a risk. Communication becomes a double-edged sword. Any signal, any sign, any trace of existence is a potential invitation to destruction. And so, the safest course, perhaps the only one, is to hide. But what does hiding look like on a cosmic scale? It begins with silence. Not simply a refusal to send messages, but a deep, comprehensive strategy of obscurity. Civilizations would design their infrastructure, their technology, even their cities and ships, to be invisible across the electromagnetic spectrum. They would mask waste heat, bury transmissions, shroud activity in cloaking fields or underground facilities. Not to deceive, but to survive. And more than hiding, they would listen, constantly, patiently, because in the forest, those who survive are those who hear first, who see before being seen, who prepare, not for friendship, but for the worst. This concept, while unsettling, mirrors behaviors seen in nature. On Earth, in ecosystems teeming with life, many animals rely not on aggression, but on concealment. The quiet ones, the unseen, the camouflaged, they survive. A bird might silence its song if predators are near. A deer freezes, blending into the trees. A predator may stalk for hours, waiting for the right moment to strike, and another to vanish, unseen again. Now imagine this principle extended across light years. A civilization that has endured for millennia may have done so not through conquest, but through silence. And if every successful civilization does the same, then the result is what we observe now. A universe filled with stars, with planets, with potential life. And yet, no sound, no message, no footprint. It is not that no one is out there. It is that everyone is hiding. We must then ask, if this is the case, if silence is the norm, then what does it mean that humanity has not been silent? Our history is filled with noise. Not just the radio signals of the last century, but the electromagnetic pulse of every broadcast, every satellite, every radar. We have leaked ourselves into the cosmos without caution, without strategy. We have declared our presence with every flicker of our technology. And now there is a growing movement, small but serious, among scientists and thinkers who suggest we should stop. METI, or Messaging Extraterrestrial Intelligence, is the practice of intentionally sending messages into space in the hope of being heard. It is an extension of SETI, the search for extraterrestrial intelligence, but where SETI listens, METI speaks. For decades, we've done both. But increasingly, voices have risen in protest, not from fearmongers or conspiracy theorists, but from astronomers and cosmologists who understand what the dark forest might mean. Their argument is simple. If we do not know what is out there, and if we cannot predict how they might respond, then we should not announce ourselves. To shout in the forest is to invite attention, and attention may not be kind. There is precedent for this idea in our own past. Human history is filled with moments when contact between civilizations did not lead to peace, but to conquest. When the unfamiliar was seen not as an opportunity, but as a threat. When the more advanced culture did not offer knowledge, but domination. We must not romanticize contact, not when the stakes are survival. And yet, there is a counter-argument, one that rests not on fear, but on hope. Some believe that by reaching out, by extending a hand into the dark, we might find not danger, but understanding. That somewhere out there is a civilization like ours, curious, kind, willing to listen. And that they, too, have waited, wondered, hoped for a message. It is a beautiful idea. But the forest, if it is real, does not reward beauty. The dark forest hypothesis is not merely a theory of fear. It is a reflection of the logic that emerges in a universe without trust, where the distances are too great for diplomacy, where communication is too slow for negotiation, where every other intelligence is unknowable, and therefore unquantifiable in risk. In such a universe, the only certainty is this: if you reveal yourself, you cannot take it back. So what, then, should humanity do? The answer is not simple, because we are not, by nature, silent. We are storytellers, explorers, artists, dreamers. To remain quiet is to deny a part of what makes us human. But perhaps, just perhaps, wisdom lies in listening, at least for a while. Imagine a future where our greatest scientific minds, our most powerful telescopes, are turned not outward in greeting, but inward in study. A civilization that seeks to understand its own voice before raising it. A humanity that chooses, for the first time, to step quietly among the stars. This does not mean fear must rule us, but it does mean recognizing the scale of what we face. We are not walking into a neighborhood. We are entering a cosmic wilderness, older than history, wider than imagination, and we do not know what lives there. Let us return now to the wow signal, that single tantalizing moment when the universe may have whispered back. If it was a message, and we do not know that it was, then perhaps it was the result of a mistake, a brief moment of boldness or of error, a civilization that forgot to whisper, one that, for a brief window of time, allowed itself to be seen. And perhaps, soon after, it was seen by someone else. We do not know. But this ignorance, this vast and terrifying ignorance, is itself a reason for caution. And so we stand, here on Earth, at the edge of the forest. We have stepped just far enough into the trees to see that we are surrounded, but not enough to see what lies beyond. And the question we must answer, perhaps the most important question we will ever face, is whether to take another step or to stand still. To truly grasp how humanity might confront the reality of the dark forest, we must first turn inward, not to the stars, but to ourselves. Within the long memory of our species lie the echoes of instincts shaped over eons, instincts that guide our choices, our fears, and our hopes. Humanity is a species born under open skies. For most of our history, we lived with the stars directly above us. No ceilings, no boundaries, only the endless canopy of night. We told stories about those stars, built meaning from their patterns, and used them to navigate seas and seasons. They were our first calendar, our first compass, our first sense of scale. It's no wonder, then, that the cosmos still calls to us. Exploration is not merely something we do, it is something we are. We have crossed oceans in small wooden ships, traversed deserts, climbed mountains, and descended into caves. And when the Earth began to feel small, we launched machines into orbit, then to the moon, and now to the edge of our solar system. Each of these steps came with risk, and yet we took them, not because we were certain of safety, but because the pull of the unknown was stronger than the weight of fear. But space is different. In space, the unknown is not just vast, it is unknowable. The scale of time and distance stretches far beyond our comprehension. A message sent to another star may take decades to arrive, and longer still for a reply. A civilization might rise and fall in the time it takes for light to cross the void between us. And so, when we speak of contact, of first contact, Of any contact, we are speaking not of dialogue, but of declarations. Messages launched with no certainty of reception, no possibility of context. And if the message is intercepted by someone other than its intended recipient, we cannot control how it is understood. This is the crux of the dark forest. It does not demand that others be evil. It does not imagine galactic conquerors or malevolent invaders. It simply recognizes that uncertainty in its purest, rawest form is a danger. Because when you cannot know someone's intent, and you cannot communicate with them clearly, and you cannot escape if things go wrong, then the rational choice, the evolutionary choice, may be to act preemptively. Silence, then, becomes not just a survival tactic, it becomes an ethic, a way of coexisting without contact, a strategy of mutual invisibility. But can humanity accept this? We are a species of noise. Our cultures are built on expression, on visibility, on connection. We write, we speak, we share, we broadcast. We feel the need to be known to mark our presence not just here on Earth, but across the cosmos. It is why we name stars, why we send golden records into space, why we imagine stories of meeting others who look up and wonder as we do. And yet, the more we learn, the more it seems that no one else is broadcasting. Perhaps they once did. Perhaps long ago, when the galaxy was younger, civilizations lit up the skies with beacons and songs. And perhaps some among them learned too late that not all listeners are kind. That sometimes a voice in the dark is enough to bring ruin. And perhaps, after enough voices were silenced, the others learned to fall quiet. Now, only we remain loud. And that noise may be our greatest vulnerability. So how do we balance these truths? On one hand, our desire to connect, to explore, to understand. On the other, the growing possibility that caution is not cowardice, but wisdom. We must first recognize that we are still young. The universe is over 13 billion years old. Our species has existed for a mere 200,000. Our technologies, radio, rockets, telescopes, are younger still. In cosmic terms, we are infants. And yet we act, at times, as though we are ready to speak for all life. As though we can shout into the forest and expect only welcome. Perhaps the first step is humility. Not silence born of fear, but quiet born of awareness. A recognition that we do not yet understand the rules of the place we've entered. That the forest may be older, stranger, and more dangerous than we imagined. That before we call out again, we must first truly listen, and try to understand what is not being said. Because silence itself can be a message. If every civilization out there has independently arrived at the conclusion that silence is survival, then the absence of signals becomes a chorus, not of welcome, but of warning. Do not speak, do not shine, do not be seen. It is a chilling thought. But perhaps it is also a challenge, not to remain silent forever, but to become wise enough that when we do speak, we do so with the knowledge, the care, and the strength to survive what may come next. In this way, the dark forest is not just a theory of fear. It is a test, a puzzle, a waiting room for civilizations not yet ready to join the cosmic conversation. It may be that the universe is full of intelligent life, but that true contact only occurs when a species has proven it understands the risks, that it can restrain itself, that it can survive the loneliness long enough to deserve companionship. If so, then perhaps the silence is not a curse, but a rite of passage. And if we can endure it, if we can learn from it, if we can become the kind of civilization that listens more than it speaks, watches more than it moves, thinks more than it acts, and maybe one day we will hear a voice. Not a sudden shout, but a whisper, quiet and cautious, testing the waters. Are you still there? And perhaps then, with great care, we will answer, yes, we are here, quiet and listening. To further understand this delicate balance, let us consider the paradox of our own existence. We are a species that thrives on connection and communication, yet we find ourselves in a universe that may reward silence and invisibility. This paradox is not just a challenge, but an opportunity to evolve our understanding of what it means to be part of a cosmic community. Consider the analogy of a library, a vast and ancient one, where each book represents a civilization. In this library, the rule is silence. Not because the librarians are harsh, but because the knowledge contained within the books is so precious, so fragile, that any noise might disturb the delicate balance. Each book must be read with care, with respect, with an understanding that the words within are part of a larger, interconnected story. In this cosmic library, humanity is a new book, still being written. Our pages are filled with the noise of our existence, the stories of our discoveries, our struggles, our triumphs. But we are not yet finished. And if we are to find our place among the other books, we must learn to respect the silence, to understand that our story is but one among many. This metaphor helps us see the dark forest not as a place of fear, but as a place of reverence. A place where the silence is not empty, but full of potential, full of stories waiting to be discovered, full of wisdom waiting to be shared. But how do we, as a species that thrives on noise, learn to embrace the silence? How do we reconcile our need to connect with the necessity of caution? The answer lies in the way we approach our exploration of the cosmos. We must shift our focus from broadcasting our presence to understanding our environment. Instead of sending messages into the void, we should invest in technologies that allow us to listen more deeply, to observe more carefully, to learn more thoroughly. This means developing advanced telescopes and sensors that can detect the faintest signals, the most subtle signs of life. It means creating algorithms and AI systems that can analyze vast amounts of data, looking for patterns and anomalies that might indicate the presence of other civilizations. It means fostering a culture of patience and perseverance, where the goal is not immediate gratification, but long-term understanding. In doing so, we not only increase our chances of detecting other civilizations, but also demonstrate our maturity as a species. We show that we are capable of restraint, of careful consideration, of respect for the unknown. We prove that we are worthy of joining the cosmic conversation. And perhaps, in time, we will find that we are not alone, that there are others out there, also listening, also learning, also waiting for the right moment to speak. And when that moment comes, we will be ready, not with a shout, but with a whisper, not with a demand, but with an offering, not with fear, but with hope. This is the path that the dark forest hypothesis offers us, a path of caution, of humility, of respect, a path that leads not to isolation, but to true connection. A path that allows us to explore the cosmos not as conquerors, but as stewards, not as children, but as adults. It is a challenging path, to be sure, but it is also a noble one. And if we are to find our place among the stars, it is the path we must take. For in the end, the dark forest is not just a metaphor for the universe. It is a mirror reflecting back to us the choices we must make, the challenges we must face, the future we must build. And if we are to step into that future with confidence and with hope, we must first learn to embrace the silence, to listen to the whispers, to understand the stories that the cosmos has to tell. Only then, with great care and with great wisdom, will we be ready to add our own voice to the chorus. To think clearly about the future of humanity in a universe governed by silence, we must first imagine ourselves not as we are, but as we could be. Not a civilization still learning to listen, but one that has mastered the art of restraint. A people that has learned that wisdom does not lie only in discovery, but also in discretion. That survival sometimes means slowing down and asking not, how far can we go, but should we go at all? In the years to come, our reach will grow. Already, we are beginning to send probes farther than ever before. We map distant exoplanets with exquisite detail. We dream of Mars and of permanent settlements beyond Earth. And we are building machines artificial, intelligences that may one day think faster and farther than any human brain. And yet, in all this progress, the question persists. Who are we becoming? If the dark forest is real, then the path ahead will require more than just technological advancement. It will demand a new kind of maturity, not only scientific, but moral. A civilization that survives in such a universe must be one that thinks carefully about every signal it sends, every star it visits, every trace it leaves behind. Consider what it would mean to hide ourselves deliberately. We would need to redesign our technology, to emit less, to radiate less, to be quiet in every spectrum we can observe. We would need to rethink our space exploration efforts, not as declarations of presence, but as exercises in stealth. Every satellite, every probe, every interstellar vessel would carry not a greeting, but a cloak. And beyond the technology, we would need to prepare ourselves psychologically for what this silence means. Because for a species like ours, one that thrives on connection and communication, the idea of hiding indefinitely is profoundly unsettling. We are drawn to the unknown because we want to know, to learn, to share, to speak, to meet others who wonder, as we do. But what if the others are not wondering? What if they are watching and choosing not to speak? There is a kind of loneliness in this thought that goes beyond isolation. It suggests that the universe is not waiting for us to find it, but is actively avoiding our attention. That it is not empty, but filled with watchers who long ago made a decision that we have not yet made, to remain unseen at any cost. This would not mean they are hostile. On the contrary, it may mean they are cautious-wise even. Survivors of past mistakes, keepers of a silence that they learn to respect. And if they are out there, watching, then how we behave now may determine whether we are ever invited into their awareness. The idea of such watchers, not gods, not monsters, but peers, raises difficult questions about our ethics, our ambitions, and our right to expand. Because every step we take outward increases the likelihood that we will be noticed. Every transmission, every engine firing, every planetary footprint becomes a signal. What if there is a threshold, a point, beyond which being seen is inevitable? And what if, once we cross that line, we are tested? It may not be a test of strength or intelligence, but of restraint. Have we shown the capacity to coexist without threatening others? Have we learned to listen before speaking? Have we demonstrated that we understand what silence is for? These are not questions we can answer with science alone. They are questions of character. And so, the dark forest becomes not just a description of the universe, but a mirror, one that reflects who we are and who we must become. Perhaps in this mirror, we see a future humanity that is quieter, slower, more deliberate. A species that has learned to thrive without always expanding. A people that builds not just to reach, but to endure. Who understands that the goal is not to conquer the stars, but to share them carefully, cautiously, in whispers. And yet, this does not mean surrendering our curiosity. On the contrary, it may mean deepening it, turning it inward, learning more about ourselves, our planet, our minds, asking better questions, listening more closely, not rushing to speak just because the silence is uncomfortable. The future may belong not to the boldest, but to the most patient. A civilization that learns to wait, and in doing so, survives long enough to be heard at the right time, in the right way, by someone who is ready to listen. And what of that future meeting? Imagine it not as a sudden invasion, not as a dramatic arrival, but as a gradual awareness, a pattern in the data, a faint anomaly, a signal that repeats, not loudly, but gently, a voice not shouting, but whispering, "We see you, we have watched, and we are not alone." Such a moment would not come quickly. It might take centuries, but it would be the culmination not of expansion, but of evolution, not of power, but of patience. And it would change everything, because in that moment, the forest would no longer be dark. It would be filled with light, soft, careful, deliberate light. A network of civilizations, each cautious, each quiet, but each aware. And from that awareness, something new might grow. Not conquest, not fear, but trust, slowly, carefully, like light filtering through the trees. To fully grasp the implications of this vision, we must delve deeper into the nature of restraint and the potential pathways it opens for humanity. The concept of restraint in the context of cosmic exploration is not about limitation for its own sake, but about the strategic and ethical considerations that come with maturity. It is about recognizing that every action we take has consequences that ripple out into the unknown, and that those consequences must be weighed with the utmost care. Consider the analogy of a garden. A gardener does not simply plant seeds and walk away. They tend to the soil, monitor the growth, and make careful decisions about when to water, when to prune, and when to harvest. They understand that each action they take affects the health and future of the garden. In the same way, a mature civilization must tend to its cosmic environment, making deliberate choices that ensure not just immediate growth, but long-term sustainability. This metaphor extends to our interactions with potential extraterrestrial civilizations. Just as a gardener must understand the needs and behaviors of the plants in their care, we must seek to understand the potential reactions and intentions of other intelligent life forms. This requires a deep commitment to observation and learning, rather than immediate action and intervention. In practical terms, this means investing in technologies and methodologies that prioritize stealth and subtlety. For example, we might develop propulsion systems that leave minimal traces, or communication methods that are difficult to detect. We might design our space missions to be as unobtrusive as possible, minimizing their impact on the environments they explore. This approach would not only reduce the risk of detection, but also demonstrate our respect for the cosmic environment and its potential inhabitants. Moreover, this commitment to restraint would necessitate a shift in our cultural and philosophical outlook. We would need to cultivate a mindset that values patience, careful observation, and long-term thinking. This would involve re-evaluating our educational systems, our scientific priorities, and our societal values to emphasize these qualities. It would require us to develop new narratives and stories that celebrate the virtues of restraint and the beauty of careful, deliberate exploration. One of the most significant challenges in this journey would be overcoming our innate desire for immediate gratification and recognition. As a species, we are accustomed to seeking quick results and visible achievements. The idea of working quietly, without immediate reward or acknowledgement, goes against many of our natural inclinations. However, it is precisely this ability to delay gratification and work towards long-term goals that has enabled many of our greatest achievements. From the construction of ancient monuments to the development of complex technologies, humanity has shown that it is capable of sustained effort and patience. In the context of the dark forest, this patience would be our greatest asset. It would allow us to observe and learn from the cosmos without prematurely revealing our presence. It would give us the time to develop the technologies and strategies needed to navigate the complexities of interstellar interaction. And it would enable us to build a foundation of knowledge and understanding that would serve us well in any future encounters. This approach also offers a unique opportunity for introspection and self-discovery. By turning our attention inward and focusing on the development of our own civilization, we can gain a deeper understanding of our strengths, our weaknesses, and our potential. We can explore the complexities of our own minds and societies, seeking to improve and evolve in ways that prepare us for the challenges and opportunities of the cosmos. In this journey of self-discovery, we might find that the qualities we need to survive in the dark forest are also the qualities that can help us thrive on Earth. The patience, restraint, and careful consideration that are essential for cosmic survival are also valuable in addressing the challenges we face on our own planet. From environmental sustainability to social justice, these qualities can guide us towards a more harmonious and equitable future. Ultimately, the path of restraint and careful exploration is not about limiting our potential, but about realizing it in a way that is sustainable and respectful of the cosmos. It is about recognizing that we are part of a larger, interconnected whole, and that our actions have consequences that extend far beyond ourselves. By embracing this path, we can become not just survivors, but stewards of a cosmic garden, tending to it with care and wisdom for the benefit of all who dwell within it. And so, as we stand at the threshold of the dark forest, we must choose our path with care. We must recognize the value of restraint and the importance of patience. We must commit to a journey of careful exploration and self-discovery, knowing that the choices we make today will shape the future of humanity for generations to come. In this journey, we may find that the silence of the dark forest is not a barrier, but an opportunity. An opportunity to listen, to learn, and to grow. An opportunity to become the kind of civilization that is worthy of joining the cosmic conversation. And an opportunity to build a future that is not just survivable, but truly extraordinary. Somewhere out there, beyond the cold reach of our telescopes, past the echo of ancient stars and the slow drift of galaxies, there may be others. We do not know them. We may never know them. But perhaps, that's not a flaw in the universe, but part of its design. Because the unknown is not always something to be solved. Sometimes it is something to be held, to be honored, like the silence between notes in a symphony, the dark between stars, the breath before a word. In that space, in that quiet, we find a different kind of truth. We often speak of space as a frontier, something to conquer. But what if it's more like a cathedral? Vast, quiet, humbling. A place not for shouting, but for listening, for reverence, The stars do not need us to understand them. The galaxies do not care for our ambition. And if there are minds like ours, watching from afar, they may not rush to greet us. Not because they are cruel, but because they have learned what we have not yet fully grasped, that silence can be sacred. In this silence, we are invited not just to fear, but to wonder. We wonder if we are alone. We wonder what life might look like in forms we cannot imagine. We wonder what kind of future awaits us if we choose wisdom over haste. And in that wondering, we grow, because wonder is the beginning of wisdom. It slows us down. It opens our eyes. It teaches us that not every mystery demands a solution. Some simply want to be witnessed. To gaze at the stars and not understand is not a failure. It is a kind of grace. And so we wait. We wait not with dread, but with care. Not with despair, but with awe. Not because we have given up on finding others, but because we have realized that finding them is not the goal, becoming the kind of beings who deserve to be found. That is the journey. And maybe, just maybe, that's the real test of the dark forest. Not whether we can survive in silence, but whether we can grow in it. Whether we can find meaning not just in the answers, but in the waiting. Whether we can be alone and still be whole. In the grand tapestry of the cosmos, our quest for understanding is a thread that weaves through the fabric of time and space. It is a journey that has been undertaken by countless generations before us and will continue to be pursued by those who come after. This journey is not just about discovering what lies beyond the next star or the next galaxy, but about understanding our place within the vast expanse of the universe. As we stand on the shores of this cosmic ocean, we are reminded of our own insignificance in the face of such immensity. Yet, it is this very insignificance that makes our quest for meaning all the more profound. For in the grand scheme of things, we are but a fleeting moment in the life of the universe. And yet, in this brief moment, we have the opportunity to explore, to learn, and to grow. The silence of the dark forest is not an absence of life, but a testament to the vastness of the universe and the myriad possibilities it holds. It is a reminder that we are not the center of the universe, but a small part of a much larger whole. And in this realization, we find a sense of humility and awe that can guide us on our journey. As we continue to explore the cosmos, we must remember that our actions have consequences that ripple out into the unknown. We must tread carefully, with respect and reverence for the mysteries that lie before us. For in the end, it is not just about what we discover, but about how we choose to live our lives in the face of the unknown. So tonight, as you lie under your own small patch of sky, remember this. The forest may be dark, the silence may be deep, but you are here, and you are listening. And that, in itself, is a kind of light. In this quiet contemplation, we find a sense of peace and purpose. We are part of a universe that is vast and mysterious, and yet we are also part of a story that is still being written. And as we continue to explore and discover, we add our own chapter to this cosmic tale. The universe is quiet tonight, and that quiet is full of meaning. It is a reminder that we are not alone in our journey, but part of a larger narrative that connects us all. And in this realization, we find a sense of unity and purpose that can guide us on our path. As we gaze up at the stars, we are reminded of the countless generations who have come before us, who have looked up at the same sky and wondered about the mysteries of the universe. And we are reminded of the generations who will come after us, who will continue to explore and discover, to ask questions and seek answers. In this sense, Our journey is not just about us, but about the legacy we leave behind. It is about the stories we tell, the knowledge we share, and the wisdom we pass on. And as we continue to explore the cosmos, we add our own voice to this chorus of discovery, a testament to the enduring spirit of human curiosity and wonder. So as you lie under the stars tonight, take a moment to reflect on the journey that has brought you here. Think about the countless generations who have gazed up at the same sky, who have wondered about the mysteries of the universe, and who have passed on their knowledge and wisdom to you. And think about the generations who will come after you, who will continue to explore and discover, to ask questions and seek answers. In this moment of quiet reflection, you are part of a story that is still being written. And as you continue on your journey, remember that you are not alone. You are part of a larger narrative that connects us all, a testament to the enduring spirit of human curiosity and wonder. Thank you for joining this journey through the stars, through the silence, through the mystery of the dark forest. May your thoughts be gentle, your dreams vast, and your sleep peaceful. As we conclude this journey, let us carry with us the sense of wonder and awe that the cosmos inspires. Let us remember that we are part of a universe that is vast and mysterious, and that our journey is one of exploration and discovery. And let us continue to seek the light in the darkness, to find meaning in the silence, and to grow in the wonder of the unknown. Good night. May your dreams be filled with the stars and the endless possibilities they hold. And may you wake with a renewed sense of purpose and wonder, ready to continue your journey through the cosmos.